What happens when two springs, S1 and S2, are connected in series? Does the system become stiffer or softer? Can you determine the effective spring constant simply by timing oscillations and plotting a graph? Did you know that many IJMB and JUPEB candidates memorize formulas without understanding the physics behind them? But in this video lesson, you will discover how examiners expect you to determine the spring constant of two identical springs like the setup you see here using simple harmonic motion. Can we identify the apparatus? Two identical spiral springs, the mass hanger, slotted masses, retort stand with clamp, stopwatch. So firstly, suspend two identical spiral springs that have been connected vertically, like how you see here, from the retort stand. Then you attach your mass hanger to the end of the second spring. Let us consider the first mass, 50 grams. Attach the mass hanger, which weighs 50 grams, to the end of the second spiral spring and allow to come to equilibrium. Now, when the spiral springs have come to equilibrium, you pull the mass slightly downward with an amplitude of 2 centimeters only. Ensure the oscillation is vertical while the system executes simple harmonic motion. Now, can we measure the time T1 for 20 complete oscillations? For the first mass, 50 grams, can we measure the time T1 for 20 complete oscillations using a stopwatch? Note that the to and fro movement makes one complete oscillation. Now, let's start with the experiment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Here is our T1 for mass 50 grams. Can we measure our T1 for mass 70 grams? The next thing to do is to place a mass of 20 grams with the pre-existing mass hanger of 50 grams, making it a total of 70 grams. Since it's at equilibrium, can we put our 70 gram mass into oscillation? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now we've gotten our time T1 for mass 70 grams. Can we move further to get our time T1 for mass 90 grams? We'll take another 20 gram mass and add to the pre-existing 70 gram mass. Making it 90 grams. Then we allow it to be at equilibrium. After allowing it to be at equilibrium, then we displace it downwards so it will oscillate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. Okay. So we have gotten the time T1 for mass 90 gram, and we can observe from our values that as the mass increases, the time T increases, which means that mass is directly proportional to time. Now, to get the time T1 for the next mass, 110 gram, you add an extra 20 gram mass to the pre-existing 90 gram mass. Now, allow to be at equilibrium. Then you displace the mass slightly downwards. Remember, it's an amplitude of 2 centimeters only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So, we've gotten our T1 for mass 110 gram. Now, can we find the time T1 for the next mass, 130 grams? So, to get the time T1 for the next mass, which is 130 grams, we add or we slot in another mass, 20 grams, to the pre-existing 110 grams. We allow it to come to equilibrium, displace it slightly with an amplitude of 2 centimeters. So it will oscillate. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We have gotten our T1 for mass 130 gram. Can we move further to getting our T1 for the last mass, 150 gram? So for the 150 gram mass, we'll be using a mass hanger of total mass 50 gram, and then we'll be slotting two masses weighing 50 gram to make it 150 gram. After doing that, allow it to come to equilibrium before you start oscillating. Since it's at equilibrium, can we displace it slightly at an amplitude of 2 centimeters and start our timing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 32.19. Since we have gotten our time T1 for our given masses, we'll repeat the same procedure to get our time T2 for the masses. After getting our values for T1 and T2 of the masses given, we will look for the average by summing up T1 and T2 and then we divide by 2. For the first value, we have 21.44. For the second value, we have 21.66. For the third, we have 24.68. For the fourth, we have 27.04. For the fifth, we have 29.52. And for the last value, we have 32.19. Note that when you're recording for the average T, you write in at least 2 decimal places. Now, can we go ahead to look for the period using the value of this T divided by 20, which is our number of oscillations when we were performing our practical. For the first value, we have 1.072. Before I continue, when writing for your period, you write in at least 3 decimal places. When writing for your average time, you write in 2 decimal places at least. For the second value, we have 1.083. For the third, we have 1.234. For the fourth, we have 1.352. For the fifth, we have 1.476. For the last value, we have 1.0609. So after getting the period and the average time for our masses, we'll move further to getting the square of each of these periods. The same thing you do here, you record in at least 3 decimal places. You do it for the square of our period. Now for the first value, we have 1.149. For the second value, we have 1.173. For the third, we have 1.523. For the fourth, we have 1.828. For the fifth, we have 2.179. And for the last value, we have 2.590. Recall that the period of a simple harmonic motion of a stretched string is given as T is equal to 2 pi root m over k. From this equation, can we derive an expression to plot our graph? Firstly, we'll square both sides. Therefore, we'll have our expression to be t squared is equal to, the square of 2 is 4. The square of pi will be pi square. From here, the square will get rid of this square root and we'll have our expression as m dot m over k. Now we can also rewrite the expression like this. From our equation of line graph, we have y is equals to mx plus c. Can we compare these two expressions? The y component is t squared, which will be on the vertical axis of our graph. M here, which is our slope, will be our 4 pi square over k, and our x will be our m, which will be represented on the horizontal axis of our graph. If you can notice, we don't have any value here to represent our c. We can indicate that using +0, meaning that intercept is equal to 0, which implies that the straight line graph will pass through the origin. That is, our intercept is equal to 0. That is, our y component equals t squared. Our x component, which will be on the horizontal axis, equals m. Our m, which is also known as our slope, is equal to 4 pi square over k. From the graph, we'll have a plot of t squared on the vertical axis against m on the horizontal axis. And our straight line will pass through the origin like this. Therefore, our slope will be equals to, from here, 4 pi square over k. If you're preparing for A-level, IJMB, JUPEB, or first level university physics, this is the type of practical that examiners would love to test. Don't forget to subscribe to Organotope Science Academy and turn on your notifications, because our next lesson may be the one that appears in your examination. Learn smart, think academically, and excel confidently.